A little bit of everything for everybody on this Sunday morning. It's 11:04 a.m. Eastern Time, a bit of a late start. We've got severe weather, we've got snow in some places, we've got rain in some places, and we also have some nice warm weather in a lot of places in the east anyway. We'll have that and more coming up on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Our Sunday morning Joe and Joe Weather Show, which, by the way, is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware. And while they are still in somewhat of a winter mode, they also are getting into the spring mode at Omni as they're starting to have their mulch and their topsoil and everything you need to make your yard look great. So whether it's for winter cleanup or spring beautification, head over to Omni, the largest supplier in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut tri-state area, and the lowest prices anywhere. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number. And, of course, as we all know, and as only Joe Rayo can say it with the energy that he says it, the website is
OmniTrueValue.com. Joe.
Yes. Good morning. So I must have had like 4 or 5 cups of coffee. I'm on my cranberry juice right now, and
Uh-huh.
I'm also in short sleeves because we were in the 70s yesterday, low 70s here in the mountains of North Georgia, and this morning when I woke up, it's the first morning that I think we've had above 50 in quite a while. So, but we had some sun early on, unless some high clouds have moved in. It's about 67 outside. What do you got, OJ over there?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So,
Best way to kick off the morning with orange juice.
yes.
Yep.
So you're warm up there, or warming up there in the Northeast, and I'm warm.
46.
You still
It's
haven't gotten
46.
the warm front hasn't
We
come
have
through.
rain. We have rain. We have fog, and it's 46 right now. And by the way, it's a cheapy high temperature, record high temperature at Westchester County Airport in White Plains. The record is 61, and that was set back in 1976, I should say. I don't think the Westchester Airport was around in 1946. 1976, 61 degrees, and we're within swinging distance of that. But if we stay this way through the day, Joe, that ain't happening. But I'm assuming that what's 30? It's 39. Okay, 30. How could it be 39? It's 39 on our thermometer here in Putnam Valley, but I think in Poughkeepsie or maybe Newburgh, it's 46. Weird weather pattern that's out there right now. If it stays like this, we ain't breaking any records. So I'm hoping that things will improve, and I'm hoping also we'll get some breaks in the clouds. See a little sunshine. That'd be nice.
Well, that's
later
kind
on
of
in the
what
day
I
today.
mean, that's kind of what I went for. But anytime you fool around with warm fronts in the springtime, you can get burned. I mean, you can get burned in a big way.
Yes, many times I could remember in the past we, promoted, hey, Sunday's going to be a fantastic afternoon. Temperatures are going to be warming up almost to 70 degrees. And what happens? It stays in the 40s all day with rain, drizzle, and fog. And then people get very upset, later on that day or that evening saying, what happened to the nice weather? Or what happened to the warm weather you promised? Well, cold air damming, warm front looping around, staying off to our south, and we get stuck in the muck. And I'm hoping that that will not be the case for us this afternoon.
Well, I'm just looking around at some temperatures here. So, New York, right around New York City, it's anywhere between 51 and 54. Okay, although Kennedy is 47 with us, but they have a south wind, so that explains that. Long Island is mostly mid 40s. Yeah, Joe Brewster's 39. Brewster's 39. White Plains 48 on the observation here. Well, let me see what the time on this is. These were 11
I'm
o'clock.
wondering if this has anything to do with. I wonder if this has anything to do with milder air aloft, because Stewart Airport, Newburgh, New York, they're at an elevation of, but that doesn't make any sense because I'm at an elevation of almost 500 feet. They're at an elevation of 492 feet, and they're 45. And as you just heard over the intercom, the executive producer, Renata, mentions that right here at the home base, it's 39 degrees, 6 degrees colder as compared to Newburgh. So I don't know what the heck is going on, but We do have dense fog and rain locally this morning, and I'm just hoping that all of it,
Well,
comes to an end. You just mentioned it's in the 50s in New York, so
yeah.
the
Well,
warm air wouldn't strike the distance.
excuse me. Winds are shifting around though. They're all going either west or southwest now. As I'm looking at this, Warwick is 50. They're west at 12. Albany is south at 16, partly sunny, they say on the ob at 49, at 45. Uh, in New Jersey, interestingly enough, in New Jersey at the moment, Millville is 63, Atlantic City 65, and they're southwest at 15, gusting to 28. So the warm front's pretty much on top of, right on top of you or just south and west of you. 63 in Philadelphia, southwest at 15, but Allentown's 44. So and Scranton, which is northwest of Allentown, is 52 with a southwest wind there. So it's a lot of weird. There's probably some hairpinning going on with the warm front where it bends back southward in some places and bulges up northward in others.
Well, Danbury, which is northeast of me, Joe, that's only about, 45, 50 minutes away from here to the Danbury Mall. Right now, their airport, municipal airport, 51. 51. Now, I'm 39. They're 51. They have a wind from the west at 10 miles an hour. Their visibility is 2 miles and a slowly rising. But I don't understand. How could that be? Everybody around, surrounding where I am, are either in the 40s or even the low 50s, and here I sit with temperatures just barely making it to near 40. So a weird, as you just mentioned, it's a weird scenario that's going on out there right now in my local area. You talk about your microclimate. This is it.
Yeah, yeah, it is strange. These are what? These are 10. Now, Philadelphia's up to, what did I say, 62 or 63? They were 56 at 10 o'clock. So the temperatures jump 6 or 7 degrees awfully quickly. I'm just trying to check to see what Washington, D.C. is. They were 66 at 10 o'clock with a south wind. Baltimore had a thunderstorm in 63. Williamsport 48 with a southwest. Yeah, Binghamton is 50 with a southwest wind, but Williamsport to their south is 48 with a southeast wind. It's like, yeah, it's really bizarre. And Harrisburg is 46. So it's a why don't let me see let's bring up the surface map here. Hang on 1 second. I gotta get
I predict
the surface.
I predict a lot of squiggles.
Yes, all sorts of squiggly things. Now this is going to be at 7 a.m. All right, so I'll put it up on the screen, Joe. It's pretty much kind of how I was just saying, where it's hairpinning, and I'll show you what we mean by the way, this is what we mean by a hairpin. In the meantime, while the map is getting ready, let me just say a big welcome to everybody on the chat board on this Sunday morning. Always good to see you, regulars, and hopefully some new folks too. Welcome aboard. If you're new to the channel, hope you like the show. Hit the like button. Subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button and using your Gmail account so that you can either participate in the chats, or perhaps you would like to be notified of future shows. Well, Joe and I are on Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. and Monday through Thursday at 7:30 p.m. We're off Fridays and Saturdays unless there's a storm going on. They're called hairpin warm fronts because basically they make this sort of very sharp U shape, like you see at 7 a.m., where the warm front is through western New York and western PA, but then it drops southward, and this is the impact of a little bit of low-level cold air that's being very, very stubborn and not getting out of the way. Meanwhile, the warm front is already through in southern New Jersey, and they had it drawn at 12Z, Joe, from just north of Philadelphia to just north of Trenton, right through New York City, right through Stamford in Connecticut, and going northeast into the northwest corner of Connecticut to about just south of Boston. So that's just sort of how WPC sees it. And of course, you've got this kind of wrapped up low. That's a 994 low sitting right not too far from Sault Ste. Marie in Michigan, and it's going by to our north. So uh, yeah, that warm front's got, I would think, has to come through. I would hate to think it won't because that's going to really screw up the high temperature forecast for today.
Yeah, yeah, and I could see by the way this is oriented why, for example, I might be still near 40, and meanwhile, just to the north and east, that front might be bumped up just a little bit to just to the north of Danbury, and that's why their temperatures are in the 50s. So, and again, it's really foggy out there, and that is, of course, the signal that the warm front is very much in the vicinity, and hopefully it will be bumping past me up to the north very soon. In fact, on the chat board here, one of our people said that my temperature is David Carter says your temperature will jump soon, Joe. I went from 39 to 46 in Luke. I think that's more like in like 15 minutes. So yeah, we'll see how this all pans out in the coming minutes, not just the coming hours.
Yep. Meanwhile, we do have severe weather risks today, and there's two areas to look at. One is in a not so obvious a place. That is the marginal risk that's being indicated for a good chunk of upstate New York for later this afternoon and this evening. We are, on the other hand, nothing. We're in the no storm zone from southern New England and points southward down into the mid Atlantic and through the southeast. And that's because the cold front with this is still a ways away. And the other area of severe weather that's much more important, not well, it's much more elevated. It's probably what I mean to say, is the enhanced risk of severe weather that we see in northern Arkansas, southern Missouri, touching the Tennessee and western Kentucky state lines, and that slight risk going back down into eastern Oklahoma and northeastern Texas, with marginal risk wrapped around it. And the severe weather last night, Joe, played out with a few tornadoes up in Iowa, including an EF3 that fatality. So, severe weather. The severe weather season, March, April, May, uh, known for some what could be some rather impressive outbreaks over the years, and a lot of severe thunderstorm and tornado activity, and that played according to plan last night, and it's likely to play according to plan today.
Yeah, and Tom Contino is questioning, saying, I don't think that the warm front has made it through Long Island. Well, Tom, uh, not necessarily reflective so far in terms of the temperature, which across the island of Long, mostly in the mid and upper 40s. In fact, Montauk, for goodness sake, 1 degree shy of 50. But how can you argue that the warm front is not through yet when everybody on Long Island is reporting either a west or southwest wind? Montauk, for goodness sake, is 14 miles per hour sustained, gusting to 30. That certainly is a sign that the warm front has indeed moved through Long Island. Maybe the fact that it's not perhaps in the 50s yet, as you're saying to yourself, well, the warm front's through, how come I'm not in the 50s? Well, there's a reason for that. Long Island is surrounded literally on almost all sides by water. And at this time of the year, while many inland spots who get west southwest winds see temperatures soar into the 50s and 60s, Long Island still sometimes stays cooler in the 40s, but you're not too far away. Even Montauk near 50 degrees this hour at 49, and again with a roaring west southwest wind. So the front is obviously through Long Island, and it will continue to move slowly but surely off to the north and to the east.
Yeah, that 40-degree ocean and any wind over it, sometimes it takes couple hours for that. When you get the wind shift, the temperature doesn't necessarily jump right away, but it should. Once the rain gets out of the way too, that's another inhibiting factor. By the way, in that enhanced risk of severe weather, we have anywhere from 5 to 10% tornado risk today. There's no tornado risk being indicated, so that means it's less than 2% for the marginal risk in upstate New York. And you can see the larger area of 2% that goes into central Kentucky and goes all the way back down into northeast Texas. Now, for the next couple of days, as we're start getting used to using these maps again, for the next couple of days, for tomorrow, SPC has a large area of slight risk for northeastern Mississippi, the northern half of Alabama, northwestern Georgia. I'm kind of on the edge of the line of the slight and marginal probably runs right through my street here, and the slight risk continues up on the western North Carolina Tennessee line, back into all the way into West Virginia, southern Ohio, eastern Kentucky, most east and central Kentucky, most of Tennessee, and here for tomorrow we've got general thunderstorm risk. And I was kind of wondering, should I throw in the chance that there could be a little lightning or thunder tomorrow night when that front goes by? And I said, yeah, I guess there could be, but then I didn't really verbally express it. But I don't know. I didn't go high. I didn't think it was important enough to mention. Maybe I'll throw it in afterward again later today. 2% tornado risk covers a good chunk of that slight risk area. Day 3, which now takes us into day 3 is Tuesday, Wednesday, and there's no severe weather being indicated. And let's look at the day 4 through 8 time frame because this might give us a clue as to what might happen down at the end of the week. Predictability too low on day 4. Potential predictability. Okay, so they got nothing in their long range, at least not yet. So much for getting a clue.
And Tom Contino was asking me if I buy into the 6Z GFS,
Oh, good lord.
and I'm only first of all, as all of you know who've been here for a long time, I'm not into any of the 6 or 18Z intermediate forecast. I'm more of a primary 0 and 12Z, and the 12Z is coming out right now. And by the way, Joe, this will be the last Sunday until next November that we will have access to the new GFS because, as you are well aware, before we go to bed next Saturday night, we'll be going on that consarned damn it daylight saving switch. And by pushing the clock ahead 1 hour, we also push ahead all of our guidance, which we're getting right now, but we won't be getting quite as early next week because we'll be back on daylight saving time. Tom, if you're referring to, I guess you're referring to Saturday of next week, which the 6Z GFS alluded to the potential of a snowstorm here on Saturday. It's still about a week away. Lots of things can happen. Lots of adjustments are going to be made. So at the moment, I don't really think too much of it. It's going to come back to me on Wednesday or Thursday. If it's still showing it on Wednesday or Thursday, then I'll have some interest.
Well, I'll just say this because I did see the 6Z GFS, and I also looked at the 0Z runs, particularly the European and the Canadian, and I would be very shocked if the GFS shows a low in a snow spot on this run. I haven't seen it yet. I have not looked at the run, so I'm just making it. So I'm predicting, Joe. I don't know if you've already seen it. That it might be out far enough at this point at 11:22. If you've already seen it, don't reveal anything. But I'm predicting that the GFS is going to have a low with a west track, more like the European. I don't know if it's going to be quite as far north and west as the Canadian had it from yesterday. But anyway, we also have a couple of systems in between all this, and they all are obviously going to have impact on the satellite loop. I'm looking at there's some breaks in the clouds already showing up. It's a little hard to see because I'm on the wider shot, but there are some breaks in the cloud coverage, Joe, not too far away from you, and not too far away from the coast. I mean, just inland in eastern Pennsylvania starting to break out in some places there. There's still some more clouds back to the west and south, and some of that's coming out of energy that's pushing up into Texas. And this is, of course, the second wave that's going to be coming through for tomorrow night into early Tuesday morning. And with the other primary driver, the first low, you see the spinning there up in the northern lakes. This thing's going way to the north, which is why once we get the warm front through, we basically have to wait a day and a half before, well, maybe not quite a day and a half, but at least 24 hours before we get a threat from any showers, which won't come till later tomorrow.
Well, I'm looking at the close-in view of the GOES across the northeastern United States, and you're right. Maybe not necessarily breaks per se, but it certainly looks like there are thin spots in the overcast developing over parts of Sullivan County and maybe up toward Ulster County. Maybe I ought to call my daughter who lives near New Paltz and ask her what the skies look like. But again, right now, just looking across the room out toward the sliding back door here. It still looks a bit on the foggy side, but again, there's reason to hope that we will see. I'm looking at the Finger Lakes, beautiful view of the Finger Lakes on the GOES imagery here. They're out in the clear. Buffalo, Rochester, out in the clear. They must be enjoying a really nice,
You want to
sunny,
share
spring-like
you want to share
afternoon.
you want to share that GOES shot?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Because it'll take
be
it'll
happy.
take
Just
too long for me to load it, so you might as well share it.
sure.
So
Well,
hang on. You're all set. You'll be set to go in a moment. As soon as I hit the right button. Nope, that's not the right button. No. Oh God. Oh. Oh.
technology, Joe. Technology.
Yeah, hang on a second. I know it's a black screen, folks. I'm having some trouble getting our. Oh, that's why. Okay, I screwed up.
Call
Okay.
Stalin. He'll help you.
Yeah. Okay, so you're set to go. So let me fix the. Oh, we're back up. Okay, good. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, good. And here you are. This is what I'm talking about, the close-in view of the northeastern United States. And look at that big, beautiful hole in the cloud cover over western and central and even upstate New York, up into the Adirondacks. They're enjoying some clear sky and sunshine. And here I am, Joe, down in the schmutz, so to speak. And but you can see that not too far away over parts of northeastern Pennsylvania, Pike County in Pennsylvania, for example, they're breaking out into the clear. And one would assume, again, with the thin spots showing up here over parts of Sullivan and Ulster County, one would assume that over the next few hours, we too will be enjoying some views of the sun as well as balmier temperatures than what we're seeing right now.
All right.
And look at the beautiful view of I love that view of the Finger Lakes here. That's great right there.
Yeah, it is nice. Just
No lake effect today, Joe.
no lake effect. No, not happening. Uh, where am I? Okay, just a second. I wanted to get WPC's 7-day rainfall map. And let's see. Okay, I finally got that up on the screen. So let's so unshare, if you would.
Well, I've just taken a look at down your way, Joe.
Yeah, I'm in
I
some
just threw
high.
up the
Oh,
southeastern.
the sun just came back out. I was in some
Europe.
high clouds, but the sun just came back out, so that's good.
So looks like a pretty nice day down your way as well.
Yeah.
And look, you could see already the cumulus beginning to bubble up in the late morning and midday hours down here over the south end of Georgia after a nice clear start to the day. So yeah, it looks like a pretty day down your way, Joe.
Yeah, no, it's okay. We had some, like I said, it started out sunny, then got these clouds that develop. I could see the queue out there, but probably shouldn't produce anything. So I can head over to the state park, which is like 5 miles away, and go on a long walk around the lake after the show was over. So WPC on their 7-day liquid precip, indicating a stripe of 2.5-inch plus from southwestern Kentucky northeastward into West Virginia. Much of the Northeast is in at about a half an inch to maybe an inch in some places, and then some heavy precip, and some of this is going to be thunderstorm driven in the Carolinas, in Georgia, particularly in South Georgia, where we've got 2.5 inches or more. And also on the Florida Panhandle, where we have a little stripe there of 3 to 4 inches being indicated for the Florida Panhandle. Again, this is spread out over the next 7 days. Also up in the northwestern part of the country and in the Rockies. And, of course, we're going to see snow from Colorado up into Idaho as cold air comes in. And that little patch of dry air in North Dakota, northern South Dakota, and Minnesota with no precip for the next 7 days as they get cold highs that'll be coming down. There's not a whole lot, by the way, from the standpoint of watches and warnings. We do have a lot of wind advisories up around the lakes. in upstate New York, and even some high wind warnings up in upstate New York and in southwestern New York. Advisories in northwest PA, northern Ohio, northern Indiana. Michigan, a lot of high wind warnings there too for central and southern Michigan. Advisories up in northern Michigan on the lower peninsula, except the extreme north, and we don't have anything going on uh, in uh, in the upper peninsula. We've got winter weather advisories and a few winter storm warnings up for parts of Colorado, southwest Nebraska, and into western and south central Wyoming, northeastern Utah. It's quiet from the standpoint of watches and warnings in the west. Eastern Alaska, Joe, there's a large area of winter weather advisories there, from the Pacific Ocean side almost all the way up to the Arctic Ocean side. Just thought I'd throw that in. And Hawaii, because we don't mention our friends in Hawaii very often unless they're getting nasty weather. And um, no watches or warnings up for the islands of Hawaii.
Okay, well, I could tell you that, Hawaii at this time of the year, especially, and I've been to Hawaii in the month of March. Hawaii may not be the best place to be because even though the temperatures are, maybe hovering in the 70s or even the 80s, the winds sometimes are so very, very strong that you don't have a wind chill effect in Hawaii, but it still makes for sometimes a difficult, to be comfortable on the islands. I was in Honolulu several years
Honolulu,
ago.
land of Goshen.
Yes, yes. So, but yeah, and of course they've had their fair share of ugly weather in Hawaii this winter season. They had well, they get in the winter, they get what they call a Kona storm every now and then, which is a storm which basically just comes upon them and just sits there for a long time and provides long-term stretches of cloud and precipitation up at the high terrain. I'm talking about up in the top of the volcanoes, Mauna Kea, Mauna Loa. They even have blizzard conditions. In fact, they did have blizzard conditions, if you remember, last December
Yes.
up there. So Hawaii is often thought to be the tropical paradise, but even during the winter season, not so much. But that's
Well, when you
Hawaii.
go to, I'm trying to remember what month when I went to Hawaii. I don't remember what month it was, but it was in one of the warmer months. I'm wanting to say that it was probably in June or July. It was actually, I was actually quite surprised how comfortable it was. Even though you're in there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, it wasn't the humidity was not a big issue. I don't know if it was downsloping going on or what, but I found it to be quite comfortable there.
Oh yeah, during the summertime, and that's the so-called high season. In fact, July, so long as the trade winds blow, and they usually do out of the Northeast, especially on the western and southern side of each of the islands, where they get downsloping, it could be glorious. You can have, beautiful blue sky, sunshine, humidity. You're correct, Joe. It does not get overly sticky or overly humid. So yeah, I guess a lot of people think of, the summer season in Hawaii, but in the wintertime, you say, well, I'm going to go to Hawaii and escape all this horrible weather. No, not necessarily, because while I won't call it horrible down in Hawaii, let's say in January or February or December or whatever, it's not the kind of weather that I think a lot of people expect. You want some nice weather in December, January, and February. My advice is go to the Caribbean, where it generally is lovely one day after another. And even folks who go down to Florida in December, January, and February, they sometimes learn too that may not necessarily be the place to avoid chilly or even cold weather, because even they get their fair share sometimes of that in the Florida Peninsula.
And I'd like to be able to say that this dissertation was brought to you by the Hawaii Tourist Bureau, but not, not the case. So that was not a paid advertisement. Okay. Here's
before it slips past us here, and then we don't have access to it. Let me thank the chairman for hitting super chats this morning. First one on the list. Morning weather morning weather family from my COVID hospital job. Good news, with lessening COVID cases, my job takes a break as of April the 1st. And that is good news, Scott. We know you've done a lot of hard work battling COVID the last couple of years, making deliveries, and it'll be nice for you to get a break on April Fool's Day, Joe, April the 1st, according
Yes.
to the chairman.
The radar right now, Joe, the back edge of the rain is very close to you, and it kind of curls down from the Connecticut River Valley and then turns west-southwest across southern Connecticut, south of Route 84, northern New Jersey, down into southern south central PA, and that looks like it's about it. It's just about done. So I'm thinking, just judging from the way the satellite looks, and there should we're going to break out into some sun. They're going to see places break out into some sunshine during the afternoon, and I think I'm fairly confident those high temp where you're stuck right now. I'm fairly confident that you're going to see those temperatures move up. Maybe in southeastern New England, maybe over eastern Long Island, it could be a little bit more of a struggle. But I think points west inland, especially going in from New York City and west and south and north, you should break out rather nicely. We also have some showers beginning to break out in down through northeastern Kentucky, down into southwestern Kentucky, and into western Tennessee, and also starting to see some scattered development in eastern Oklahoma and over central Arkansas, and this comprises the area that we showed you earlier with the severe weather risk. Looks like we got some snow in Colorado, along and east of I-25, for a change. A lot of it's been to the west. Now it looks like it's to the east, and we've also got some patchy snow, excuse me, up in central Wyoming and northern Utah and southern Idaho showing up on the radar, though that looks to be pretty much on the light side. So let's take a look. I got WPC's stuff up here, but you know what? Let's wait on that for a moment. Let's look at what's going on in the upper atmosphere
And on the
on the
chat board,
guidance.
an interesting just an interesting conversation going on between Tom Contino and Christiapedia. Tom says, relative to flying from here to Hawaii, no, I'm not going to stay on a plane for 11 hours. It's too much for me to handle. I just won't do it. And Christiapedia says, I'm a flight tracker, and I don't think I've ever seen a plane from New York to at least straight to Hawaii. Well, actually, there is. Hawaii Airlines will fly you from New York to Hawaii nonstop. It doesn't take 11 hours. It takes 9.5 hours. I did that flight with Renata. We went from Hawaii back to New York on a flight. Took 9.5 hours for that. Yes, you can stop. I think once when I went to Hawaii back in the 90s, we had a layover or stop in Chicago and then moved on to Hawaii. But you can if you want to, you can stop somewhere here in the continental U.S. en route to Hawaii and get off the plane and go on another plane or whatever. But if you do want to make a nonstop flight to or from Hawaii, you can do it. But the only airline that does it, I believe, is Hawaii Airlines, which makes some sense. By the way, Joe, when we flew from New York to Santiago, Chile.
In Santiago, Chile, da da da.
We flew straight. We flew straight south, and it took 9.5 hours for that lovely excursion. So
yeah,
there are plenty. I'm wondering whether or not if you can do nonstop from here to, let's say, Melbourne or Sydney, Australia. I'm sure if that were the case,
no, I think you have to go to Los Angeles or San Francisco and change
Well,
planes.
We could check Qantas or whatever. Qantas.
Yes.
And thank you, Leon Probitsky, for hitting super chats this Sunday morning. Thank you, Leon.
All right, so I'm looking here at just to give you this is actually the new GFS, which is out to almost 10 days. So let's look at let's look at like I said earlier in the show, I have not seen it. I'm looking at it for the first time. I'm going to go back to the 6Z upper air because it's important that we kind of look and see where this is going. And the European and the Canadian had a much deeper trough, much further to the west, which would mean that the GFS snowstorm fantasy for next Saturday will not happen. So here's the old GFS. So you can see this trough that's swinging down into Minnesota and into the northern lakes. It just kind of moseys along and does a slight a slight negative tilt to it as it approaches the east coast, but it's sort of axis north-south here, right around 80, which is what you want to see if you're looking for another winter event. Also, notice by the way how far south the trough gets. The depth of this trough is very impressive for this time of year. It goes back to some of the deeper troughs we had in January, and that brings the jet and cold air all the way down into Florida and into Texas and into the Gulf states. And there is the axis of that trough. Now let's look at the new one. And uh, if you're a snow lover, you're going to want to see it look kind of like this. So you don't want it to be deeper and you don't want it to be further west. And I mean, it looks like, at least at first glance, that the axis of the trough is maybe a little bit further to the west here, but it does the same thing, the same idea, which leads me to think, let me make sure. Yeah, I got the 12Z, so I just wanted to make sure about that. But that is a very impressive shortwave that is dropping down at the end of the week and going into Saturday. So no doubt that whatever happens is going to be something of size, and it's also going to mean for some behind it that we're going to get what could be maybe our last gasp of winter weather in terms of cold. And I'm going to thank Timothy Veltman at this point because he said this yesterday to me in a conversation, and I liked it so much. I said I have to use this. This is too funny, Joe. But he suggested that the old line of the opera isn't over until the fat lady sings, and uh, and I've been saying how she's been on her way. Was on her way, but stopped off for lunch. Then she started to, well, it's rumored that she was having lunch, by the way, with Mrs. Ann Sambles, and that they were conspiring to make to bring winter to a close very, very quickly. So I thought that was funny. So I sharing that with you and everybody else.
Was
Mrs.
Mrs. Ann Samples? She's apparently not very big on winter weather.
Um, well, I mean, I'm not a fan of of Mrs. Ann Sambles, mainly because she tends to follow the crowd rather than lead the crowd, or at least that's been the case this winter. But let's take a look. I'm going to bring up the radar images here first. So, and before we even get to Saturday, let me roll back because we do have a couple of things going on this week that we need to talk about before we get there, which are relevant. So let's roll this back. Uh, Okay, so obviously with today, the warm front is supposedly the warm front is supposed to be well up into New England. It better do a big fly northward between now and 1 o'clock this afternoon, because I somehow don't think necessarily believe that it'll be that far north, but no matter. It should be there. You can see the showers on the GFS at 1 o'clock are offshore. Then they disappear. Here comes the next weather system coming out of the southern plains, and you can see that the GFS is actually fairly bullish on some thunderstorm development this evening and for the first part of tonight in the risk area that's being indicated. Some snow for Iowa. So in places where they got severe weather yesterday, they're going to see snow tonight in Iowa and northwestern Illinois. And that low runs up into western New York. But the storms from that, the showers and possibly an embedded thunderstorm, they reach the coast sometime late afternoon or evening. Then that goes by. It's not a half bad looking line for tomorrow, Joe. And the gradient is actually fairly tight on either side of this, at least for a little while. You wonder whether they might be close to wind advisory criteria. Anyway, that goes out. Now here comes another wave because that front's going to stall in the southeast. So you're going to get another wave. And there's not a whole lot of cold air to work with here, folks, behind this front tomorrow night. So that low is the models have been continually forecasting that to go to our south and east. There's a second one that comes out on Thursday. This run wants to bring rain up to central New Jersey and almost to about New York City and Long Island when it moves off the North Carolina coast and heads to the northeast. But these are minor systems, and you see the high built up to the north. But again, there's not a whole lot of cold air. So in order for something to happen, you're going to need some kind of Arctic frontal passage and then a wave to come up. And now we're going into Saturday, a low in western North Carolina, which is off the New Jersey coast, and then in the Gulf of Maine. Now, it does kind of show this as a rain changing over to snow before ending type situation. The gradient is very tight. How deep is that low? I can't see. How deep is your low? Is your low? How deep is your low?
We don't have that 940 low, do we, anymore?
No, no. That was a lovely bit of fantasy. We do have a 980 low just east northeast of Boston, and it's showing the radar with snow down into eastern Virginia and even darker blue snows over New Jersey and the lower Hudson Valley with rain on Long Island. So I mean, this looks like it's a rain maybe changing to snow before ending type situation. And then it's a 66 low, Joe, somewhere just southeast of Bangor, Maine. And then it's a 960 low. Is that a 60 or a 50? I can't see. Oh, that's a 50. It's a 950 low up in New Brunswick by the time to get us to Sunday. I mean, look, this is obviously the models are having a real difficult time over the last several days putting this all together. But at least from the standpoint of the GFS, so sort of going back to that 940 low that the European had here. But I would not be shocked if we wind up seeing a major storm develop out of all of this. I just don't know whether I believe the idea of rain changing to snow before ending, because that's not something that happens. I mean, it does happen, but you got to have the right setup for it. This might be it if the GFS was right, but I'm not gonna lose any. I'm not gonna get excited over this until I get to the middle of the week.
Of course, we're coming up on that time now. Mid March, and as I said, to me, it's always been St. Patrick's Day. Where after St. Patrick's Day, if you're going to start talking about snow, everything really has to fall into place just right. Otherwise, you're simply not going to get it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. The Canadian today, same idea. For some reason, it has a slightly colder atmosphere and more precip with this low on Wednesday, on Tuesday, late Tuesday night, and Wednesday, where it actually has some snow in Pennsylvania and up into the Hudson Valley and into Connecticut, with rain pretty much from New York City on southward. That low goes out. We can argue that point when we get there. I just don't know that it's cold enough. The second wave goes out well to the south and east. And now here you have the third system, and it's still trying to show it going mostly to our west, but it's not out far enough. There's probably some kind of low developing, down in Chesapeake Bay with the setup that it has here for early Saturday morning, and big snows for Detroit, Northwest Ohio, into Indiana and Western Kentucky, if this is correct. But it might be too deep in terms of the upper air structure on the Canadian, and we don't have the European to look at, so that it's too early for that. So we'll just I'll bring the upper air back up, and then we can leave it here.
It breaks my heart to realize that come next Sunday, I'm going to have to wait until like a quarter after 20 after 2 in the afternoon to get my first real good view of the European, and that's the quick European. To get the view of the new European that goes by increments of like 3 or 6 hours, that's going to take even longer, or later on in the afternoon. I mean, my day is already shot by the time. I mean, I really am annoyed that we're going back on daylight saving time next week. I mean, if you have to have daylight saving time, put it back to where it was when you and I were growing up in the Bronx, Joe.
Wait
until the end of April.
Yeah, late April to the end of October. I'm mad because they moved it into November, And I always liked the fact that daylight saving time always ended before Halloween, which means that if Halloween were on a weekday, the kids would have literally only about an hour or an hour and a half to get out there and annoy and beg for their free
Annoy.
candy. Annoy, yes. This sort of redistributionist economics of supply giving away your sugar and your chocolate is something I really don't like, really don't go for. Look how deep this trough is. This is on the GFS for next Saturday. That is a very, very cold, very, very unusually cold and very much a winter type flow here. I wonder if whether this could wind up producing some record lows at some places after the cold air gets in. We'll deal with that when we move through this week. After that lifts out, though, we kind of go into more of a westerly flow here across the U.S., and it looks like maybe that's the last gasp of it. I don't know, but this may be next weekend may be the last chance before the fat lady arrives on the opera stage and sings her aria.
Ta-da!
Yes.
La! No, excuse me.
La la.
Yes.
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 She's my girl with a high core step of ginger and when also a wabbit hater. Oh well. Yes, Giovanni Jones. I always liked that. I always liked that juxtaposition there of the opera singer in that Bugs Bunny cartoon.
They had the one
Leopold.
yesterday on MeTV. They had the one on MeTV yesterday. They run Bugs Bunny cartoons for an hour between 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning, and the one that they were showing yesterday was the one where he coerces Elmer Fudd to go up like 100-foot ladder, and then he's explaining to the crowd, he's not going to jump into a vat of water.
Right.
He's going to dive into an ordinary glass of water.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh
God.
dear.
Okie dokie. So I think do I have a Briller Jeopardy left over from last week? No,
I don't
no,
know.
we ran through it really quick on Thursday, so I think you might have it. Or maybe we won't have one till tomorrow. I forget.
I think I may have it. I may. Let's check out here. Scott Briller. And he says, hi, we continue our series of average snowfalls for 10 cities this month of March. And he gives you within 5, or you have to be within 5 to get credit for it. So, Joe, here are 10 cities. And what you have to do is you have to just guess how much snow these cities get typically during the month of March. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Well, here we go then. Here's the first one, Cleveland, Ohio. It's the best location of the nation.
There used to be
Cleveland.
There used to be the old joke was at the airport you'd hear an announcement and the announcer would say, "Ladies and gentlemen, those of you aboard flight 123 nonstop service to Cleveland, please report to the ticket counter and inform us why." But I have to tell you, having been to Cleveland a few times, I love that city. It is a really nice city. I liked it when I first went back in the late '90s after I got burned out of a primetime job for stupid money. What I call stupid money. In other words, I would have been lighting my fireplace with $20 bills, but no matter, that didn't happen. But I was impressed with the city the first time and the subsequent times since then. And I think the last time I was there was about 3 years ago. And I loved it. It's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful city there on the lake. So if you've never gone to Cleveland,
they called it the mistake on the
no,
lake,
it's
but it's
not.
not really a
It
mistake,
really,
is it?
no. I mean, once upon a time with the demise of the steel industry and what became the Rust Belt, uh, they they've converted all of that to uh, a night spot type of place and left a lot of the old architecture in, and it really is quite, I find it fascinating. But And it's great in the wintertime because especially if you're on the east side of Cleveland, you get a lot of lake effect snows. You don't get as much lake effect snow if you're on the west side of Cleveland. So if you haven't gone to Cleveland, um, make it a point to do so. So I'm going to say 12 inches for Cleveland for March.
Close, 10.8.
Okay.
You're just 1.2 inches off. How about Philadelphia?
Oh, Philadelphia? It's got to be lower than New
Yes.
York City. So New York City's around 5-ish, and so I'll say probably uh, uh, 3.8.
Wow, within 2/10 of an inch, 3.6 for Philadelphia. Now, how about Buffalo?
I'm learning that the lake effect areas, I have to remember that they still have some impact. So I'll say 15.
Again, quite close, within 9/10 of an inch, 14.1. And here comes Portland, not Portland, Maine, but Portland, Oregon,
Oh,
in
it's.
March.
I'm going to say it's under an inch, so it's probably say half an inch, point 0.5.
And it was 0.1.
Yeah, I
How
wanted
about
to say
how
point.
about
I thought about saying point 0.1, but I don't know. I thought maybe it might be a little low, but okay, go ahead.
I got a little chuckle out of number 5. Number 5 is Salt Lake City, but instead of writing it Salt Lake City, SALT, the chairman wrote it as Sue, SAULT, like Sault Ste. Marie.
Right. Oh, Sioux
So it
Lake
looks like
City.
Sioux Lake City.
Yeah. I'll say I'll say for Salt Lake City, the West is tough because there's so many microclimates out there between mountains and valleys and plateaus and all the rest of it. So I'll say 15.
This is now for Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
The first big one that you really missed, 5.9 inches.
See, it's so tricky because if Denver were the question, you'd put a bigger we had it on one of the other numbers
Right.
not too recently. It was a double, if I remember, it was a double-digit number, and I was too low. So yeah, it all out there. It's very very tricky. Go ahead.
Fonzie and Mr. C and the rest of the Happy Days gang would like to know about Milwaukee.
That's Chicago, Milwaukee. I'm gonna say 8.5.
Pretty close, 6.7.
Okay.
I saw her this morning on CBS Sunday Morning doing a little feature bit. Dolly Parton, and I'm sure one of Dolly Parton's favorite towns is Nashville, Tennessee.
I'm gonna say for Nashville, half an inch.
Again, very close, 0.7 inches, just 2/10 of an inch above what you just said. How about Providencia, Rhode Island?
Providence.
Providence.
So I'll say 6.5.
Wow, 6.4, Joe.
Well,
You're hot on some of these. How about Hartford, Connecticut?
well, Providence is 6.5. I think Hartford might be maybe a little higher because they are further inland, and I'll say 7.7 for Hartford.
Actually, there's a significant there's a 3-inch difference between Providence and Hartford. Hartford 9.4 inches.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be
For
higher. I just didn't know how high to go. It gets, northern Connecticut. Northern Connecticut is, yeah, it's pretty cold up there. They get a lot of bleed down from down the Connecticut River Valley. So much like we get from the Hudson Valley wind, they have the Connecticut Valley wind. So they get that north wind. It stays cold up there in a lot of these weather systems that come through during the wintertime.
and northwestern Connecticut especially gets quite a bit of snow
Yeah.
during certain, same thing. I mean, like you could run a line from the Poconos, the Catskills, and into northwestern Connecticut, and that's kind of like a snow belt area. And Hartford's just a stone's throw away to the east,
Yeah,
so that's probably why also they.
basically the I-84 corridor, the north of the
Yeah.
I-84 corridor there.
Now you already know the answer to this, but for those who don't, you can always trick them. Louisville. Now, how do you pronounce the capital of Kentucky? Do you pronounce it Louisville or do you pronounce it Louisville? and people think about it for a second, and they may pick one or the other. And then when they say, okay, which one is the correct answer? He said, neither. It's Frankfurt.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
everybody thinks Louisville is the capital, but it's not. But Louisville, Kentucky, Joe, how much snow do they get?
I'm going to say, well, Nashville. I'm going to say 2.9.
2.1. Congratulations. Again, you were well within the 5-inch. The only one that you blew was Salt Lake City.
And
but everyone else.
I kind of said that I was probably going to blow it because how weird it is out there in the western part. So.
And the bonus question, and you may end up getting something from Dicker and Dicker of Beverly Hills.
Dicker of Beverly Hills, yes.
Within 8, how many days each year does Denver receive measurable snowfall?
Oh, God. I don't know. Within 8?
Yes.
Okay, 10. I'm going to say... I'll say 45.
You went a little bit too high, but I could see where you were going. 31 times during the year Denver gets a measurable snowfall.
Yeah.
31 days. So.
All right.
And he's hoping, Mr. Briller's hoping to do a Briller Cooking Jeopardy with you and my lovely wife next week, Sunday, March 13th. And I will ask her after the show if she has anything on the calendar for next Sunday for that.
All right. Well,
and Joe C. And according to Christiapedia, Joe says Joe C. needs a thread ripper. A thread ripper?
What's a thread ripper? Oh, like
a thread ripper.
My threads? I mean, this is an old shirt. I can't. This shirt is so old. Are there threads hanging down? I don't know. Am I committing a fashion error here? Well, anyhow. All right. It's we just cracked 12:01 Eastern time. My dog has been very patient on Sundays. By the way, he's asleep as he usually is during the show on the couch. But usually we go to the dog park in the morning around 9 a.m. So naturally he's on his clock. So usually around 8:45 he's looking for me to put on.
Now is he gonna get thrown off next week? Is he gonna get thrown off next week by daylight time?
I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember from the last time we had the hour switch. No, because he's not, he's not really overly precise when it comes to the eating times because he doesn't eat the like if my old dog would eat himself to death. If I kept pouring food into his food bowl, he would just eat himself to the point where he would explode. My dog, JJ, he if he's not hungry, he'll leave it. He won't touch the bowl, and then he'll go there from time to time during the morning. Although this morning he had eggs, so he ate. Whenever I give him eggs, he eats it right away. But what he'll do is I'll put the food in the bowl, and then he'll wait for me to have my dinner. When I sit down and have my dinner, then he'll go to his bowl to eat.
That's nice.
I didn't train him to do that, but he would wait for me when he sees me making dinner, preparing my dinner. He waits for me to sit down and eat, and then he goes over to his bowl and he eats at the same time. So I think that's pretty cool.
See, that's nice. My Yorkie, we'd give him his dinner first. He'd lap it up like crazy, and then when it was time for us to sit down and have dinner, he'd be right up at the table, saying, "Roo, roo," looking for more.
Yeah.
And, we never were able to break that habit. Brendan Doherty, thank you very much for hitting Super Chat this fine morning. And, Joe, I'm going to finish off this show with a bad joke. But what the heck?
Okay.
It's Sunday, right?
All right, go ahead.
I heard that the production company that stages the game show, and I can almost see now all the people getting ready now to either boo me or say, get out of here for doing this. I heard that the production company that stages the game show Wheel of Fortune has beefed up security in their Hollywood studio because this past Friday night, Joe, right outside the studio, a masked man held up Vanna White and stole 16 G's. Not money, just 16 G's.
Yes. I saw that post, Joe. I don't know if you saw I don't know if you saw it, but Jeff Banson put on a video clip from Wheel of Fortune where, my God, it was the easiest puzzle to solve, and nobody could solve it. It
Right.
was I don't
I
know
heard
if,
about that.
yeah, something to the effect of it was, putting a feather in your cap, and nobody could get the cap word. It's just like, I'm looking at this saying it's so. These people all must be under the age of 30 and have never heard the saying. That has to be why they all got it long. Feather in your map, feather in your lap, um, feather in your nap. I mean, with all these different things, it's like, oh my God. Seriously, but I guess it's a generational thing because that's not a phrase that I hear people, use very much anymore. So, anyhow,
One time on a cruise, and this is when my son was, well, my son right now he's 31 years old, but uh, we were on a cruise and he was up on stage. They chose him for some kind of contest, and they were playing various songs, and they asked him. He said, "Now, can you identify this song, this piece of music?" And it was the theme from Perry Mason, and he's standing there. My son is just like, "Huh? What?" Had no clue what that music was from, and I'm sitting there like dying, like, "Come on."
yes,
Yeah, a different
exactly.
different society, different generation,
Right.
whatever.
The case of the missing notes.
Yes,
Right.
the it, and I love watching Perry Mason because you could always see, you could in a typical Perry Mason, you could see a number of people from a number of different shows. There's Larry Tate, there's Floyd the Barber,
Right. All
that's,
these wonderful character
all these
actors
people.
that you've seen in other shows, and they show up on Perry Mason, either playing the scum of the earth, or they're the murderer, or you know, they were instrumental in who committed the murder, whatever it is. Yeah, and then
Right,
you see them all
right.
in these other parts. So, all right.
Isn't it true that we should be breaking up right now, Joe?
Yes,
Isn't it true that it's 12:06?
it is. It
Isn't
is.
it true that it's about time we close this show
All right.
today?
Yes, it's true. It's true. I gotta end the show. I gotta end it. So everybody have a great Sunday, and we'll see you tomorrow night at 7:30, right here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Night. Have a great afternoon. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye. Isn't
Uh,
it true?
yeah.